Hey guys, this guy has been with me through the whole setup, and I don't know if he's going to be with me through the whole video. We shall see. Right now I'm testing out the microphone to see if it works. Okay, so he flew away, which is kind of cool because he was kind of distracting me, and I was like, I don't want to bother you. Excuse me while I do this whole setup without bothering you. So, all right. Today, first and foremost, I want to talk about knowing thyself because this is basically, if you want to boil everything down to a nutshell, the spiritual path is the path to knowing yourself. I want to say that I have had my issues with obsessive thoughts where, you just get something in your head and you go over and over and over and over and over again and you just can't get it out of your head. I want to make a differentiation between that kind of thought and the kind of thoughts where you're getting to know yourself, where you think back and you're digesting and you're chewing on what happened in the past, how you acted, what you said, maybe what you could have done differently to get to know yourself. This is called practicing awareness. It's a part of practicing awareness. And you have to spend time doing this through meditation and training your thought processes. So, last video, it was very interesting. All the timing. So, the timing of everything that happens in your life can, and usually I would say most of the time, is very important. Because when you get on this path and you start going with the flow of the divine, then the things that come to you specifically when they need to come to you. So, the circulation of a rumor coming back to me, like, oh, are you the same center of mystic arts that I heard this about? This circulation, which is interesting because the Wheel of Fortune comes up, has come back around. And now I have not been obsessively thinking about what has happened in the past, but since it came up again, I'm like, maybe I need to think about what happened and revisit this. Before I continue, I also want to say that Set has shown up really literally right before I sat down to do the video, and he wants to be mentioned because when it's all about Set. It's all about facing your fears. It's all about the chaos, the dark side. Shadow work is all about Set. So now that I've mentioned him, this event that the rumors have circulated around, I am beginning to think of as the unbalanced Venus and Mars event, which is really interesting. Talk about timing, that Mars and Venus right now are coming into conjunction. I think that's the word. They're close. They're like in Leo, right? This past week. So that I thought was interesting. And then I realized that it has literally been one journal since this event. So I was like, when did this event happen anyway? It was 4 months ago. And it was on the first page of my journal. And yesterday, or no, when I did the last video, day before yesterday, I literally started a brand new journal. So it was really interesting as well. This is like, now it's time to look at it again. And I realized that when you give something a certain amount of time, you can zoom out on your perspective, right? Everything gets further away because it's further in the past, and you can see things clearer. So I'm like, all right, I'm going to revisit this, and there's a few things that I want to record because I am a storyteller, for one, and for two, I'm betting on that people like stories and everybody likes to gossip. I mean, it's just part of human nature. And actually, it is also in my birth chart that I have to be careful not to, succumb to the gossip because I'm a storyteller. Anyway, I'm not going to gossip. But there's a few things that I want to say about this event to record, as well as, maybe you heard something. I don't know, I'm putting myself out there. There's going to be all kinds of information coming from all kinds of different places. So, first, I wanted to say that when you zoom out, right, that's the map. You are creating the map as you zoom out. And the fine little details become very insignificant, the little bitty details. Because you don't need, there's a rose bush here. When you're looking at a map, you just need to know where the river is, right? And I realized that I had been kept in an agitated state for a little while, for a good month, with my relationship with this firebird that came into my life briefly. It was the first relationship in close to 6 years that I've entered into. So, as anybody knows, in a relationship, there's this Venus, this Mars, which is interesting because the video that I watched with Agitated talks about this too. This, like, when you're in a relationship with somebody, there's this like passing of this ball back and forth. It can be a positive agitation and passing back information and wills, and it could possibly be a negative as well. So this was happening. With this intimacy, I was sharing all of these stringy emotional webs that I've talked about before as well. Anytime you share physical intimacy with somebody, there's going to be some gunk, lube. There's going to be some stuff that you share energetically, not physically. Physically as well. But Coma was also full of very young, beautiful women. And I'm sorry if they're offended that I think that they were beautiful. I don't think that's offensive at all. But there was also physically a lot of clutter around. Books all over the place, there's stuff all over the place. Like, it was really, I remember thinking that, and I mentioned that the place needed to be cleaned up, right? And to keep your own things in your own space is really important here at Coma, especially because we're sharing a small space, we're sharing space. So that, along with what I've also mentioned, doing inner child work, my inner child started feeling like she was not being treated fairly. Sophia, my, at the time, 5-year-old daughter, was getting a lot of compassion, a lot of love, and a lot of forgiveness for all of her explosions and her, little bitchy ways. And I wasn't. And it was, because I'm an adult. And I was just like, I'm also an inner child. And I'm also a human being that feels just as emotionally as my daughter does. And yeah, so this was coming up in me. This was boiling for a good long while, mind you. And this is what happens when you don't bring things up, when you bury something. When you hold it in, it builds. And when it exploded, my daughter and I ended up in a fight like I was her sibling. And I might have mentioned something similar, but I didn't think I was very clear on it in the past. So, yeah, we basically fought like we were siblings. I mean, I said some shit that I shouldn't have said because at the time in my mind, I was on her level. It was my inner child speaking. Since then, we have talked about it. I've been able to apologize. My daughter understands. But the next day, the whole house cleared. All the girls left, including the Firebird that had told me that, she was in this for the long haul. That was kind of a quote from her. She was like, this is long term. And so then I was left with what I had done, to contemplate what I had done, which was pretty fucking heavy at the time. Now I can look back and, I mean, everything happened for a reason. Everything was so on point. Anyway, when I exploded, I also felt judgment, which I've said before. Really, really heavy judgment. I also feel like I haven't really eloquently spoken about shadow work. I did a video in the past, but I think I've gotten better with my videos. So let's revisit that. Shadow work. It's this word that's been floating around. Now, let's look at the realities of the shadow. The sunlight has to be present for shadow to exist. You create the shadow by blocking the light, right? Well, that implies that there's still light at that point, and that also gives you the ability to say this shadow is because of the light, taking yourself out of the picture, which I thought was an interesting perspective. There are places that you go that don't have a shadow. They're so deep that there is no light. And there is no shadow because there's no light. It's complete darkness. So I thought in this episode that maybe that's who we should talk to. Maybe I should ask this deep inner, I mean, I could also say demon, it's the scary stuff. It's the scary room that nobody wants to go into. The dark side of the self, the dark side of the moon. That comes up. Anyway, so I thought about, well, who is this going to be for the Arcana? Is it going to be the Hermit? Because I was like, his cloak, and he's got the lantern, and I could just see him going into the dark room. Or is it going to be Death? Or is it going to be the Devil? The darkest cards of the tarot. Like, who's it going to be? So I thought about that as I shuffled the cards. And this is what we came up with. At the center was Three of Hearts. Now, he came up yesterday in a personal spread that I did in the ground, in the south position. It was where I was rooted. So for me, in my experience, he just came up from the ground into the center. And I was like, ooh, okay. it's digging up that emotion, right? The center is the 3, which is the explosion or implosion, whichever one, because it's the 3. The emotion is the inner child, which kind of makes it more of an implosion. The 3 of hearts or 3 of cups is more of an implosion. It also has a lot to do with being in company. In a traditional tarot deck, it's the 3 of cups is being joyful with your company and nostalgic, young. It whispers of romantic love, which I was like, of course that would be in the center, because this whole event wouldn't really be much anything. It wouldn't have been an event without a relationship of love being involved. I did love her. I wasn't in love with her. And I knew it wasn't, from the beginning I knew it wasn't going to be forever, but that's stuff that doesn't matter. I still love the girl, okay? Wherever she is, may she walk in love and light forever. I still love all those girls. All of them. Thank you so much for giving me this platform to really know myself. So what's in the north, what are we thinking about, is 2 of Swords. Now, I joked about this because 2 of Swords came up so often between me and the Firebird when we were together and we were doing a lot of tarot, which I always do a lot of tarot. It was always about this miscommunication between each other, this 2 sword fighting, right? Was all over the place. And here it is again, what I'm thinking about, what the shadow is thinking about, right? This conflict, this crossing of swords. Are you fighting to the death? Or are you doing a friendly spar? You know, testing each other's wits, which was in that video about, with the Agitated video. Maybe I'll remember to put the link above. Anyway, conjoining, that's what it is. Mars and Venus are conjoining in Leo at the moment. I thought of being open and non-judgmental in your thoughts. Rumors and myths and theories came up with this card, which is all about this. Whole subject is rumors, theories. She says, he says, he says, back and forth, which is interesting. And the swing of perspective I wrote down, which is interesting. So let's go down into the south. And it was 3 of clubs, which is 3 of wands. This is that explosion or implosion as well. The creation or destruction, that 3. It's the 3. But this time it's wands. It's fire, not water. Which is interesting that the fire is below the water. It's active. Wands is an active sign. So it's exploding. Whereas in the center, the 3 of hearts is kind of an implosion. This 3 of wands is an explosion, which was interesting. It wants to enter the world. It's in the south. It's buried. So I definitely thought of the shadow wanting to come out. It wants to explode. It wants to emerge. We're talking about buried scars, buried deep internal wounds that want to come out, that want to be surfaced. but they explode. It's a wand, so it's wild. It's not fashioned and harnessed and made like a sword. It's unpredictable. It's gonna come out when you least expect it. You can't tame this wand and this fire and this shadow and this darkness. And I also wanted to say, as healers, if you want to be a healer, give space for this, because it does happen with all of us. And if you judge somebody for uncovering their deepest shadows, they don't have a clear mirror to heal from it. I mean, unless, I did, but it's harder. I mean, I feel like if I was supported and understood, it would have been a whole different situation. But I just wanted to put that out there. As a healer, it's important to give space for other people that explode sometimes and show their ass, show their Mars side sometimes. It happens. So let's go to the east. What is rising up in the eastern horizon? And it's the Seven of Hearts. And I thought, well, that's perfect because there's seven. That's Venus. And the hearts is emotions. And in my deck, it is a major arcana of the moon. Now, the arcana of the moon, it's reflection. We were just talking about mirrors. It is the ultimate universal mirror, the moon. It's the emotional world. It is the intimate secret. It is accepting God as your ultimate lover. Now, of course, the moon. Of course, the moon is going to show up here in the east, shedding light, because it's not the sun in that dark room that sheds the light. It's the moon. And I thought of this Sesame Street thing because, I have a kid, and it was talking about the moon being the night light, the little girl scared in the room. And anyway, it was so cute, and I really thought about it. I almost cried because I'm just sensitive like that. And I really feel for people who are going through their darkest shadows, and which is why this whole pattern of the few people that I've had relationships with in my life have had very dark sides to them, because I'm so emotionally involved, and I love them, Anyway, the moon holds the secrets of the soul. 7 is the mystery number. 7 is the secret number. It's a secret. I love secrets. The moon is associated with madness and lunacy. Like that dark room. That's why it's fucking scary. Because you can lose yourself in lunacy. Whew, that brings a lot of chilly. Ooh. I used to love horror movies. I don't anymore. And then I was like, no, it wasn't death or the hermit or the devil. It's the moon. It's the moon. La Luna. of course, it has to be you shining light into that dark room at night. So what's in the West at the end of the day is 10 of Wands. There's another wand, and that 10 is the completion, is the rebirth. It's another arcana in my deck of the Wheel of Fortune, because it's 10, and the fire is the circular motion, which is the wheel. The cycles of the moon. The closure of the past. And I was like, I closed that book. It was so on point. Literally finished that journal. I closed that book. Looking towards the future, I have a new journal this is my new journal. It's got Pegasus on it. Anyway, the cosmic ocean, the flow arts. And you know, it's through dance and swing that I have really gotten to know the Wheel of Fortune. And since I've gotten to know the Wheel of Fortune, I've also realized a lot about patience. And, you know, sometimes you're down, and sometimes you're confused, but it takes time for that swing. I mean, a pendulum swings in a whole different time dimension, right? It's pretty fast. You know, that swing is fast. But the swing of life, the Wheel of Fortune, you need the patience of a god. So thank you so much for watching and listening to the story. Please check out all my stuff on Patreon. The surprise link below. You know, just clicking on it helps me out. I'm trying to do the affiliate thing. I don't know. I mean, I've made like 93 cents. But, you know, I'm trying to put stuff on there that you'd buy anyway. And if you buy it through my link, you know, I mean, it helps us out. It's like you get what you want and Coma gets the donation. So I'm trying to make that work. And also, you know, my website now has all of my books, links in it, and the podcast, and the Patreon account. It's got all my links, so check it out, centerofmysticarts.com. Thank you so much. In love, light, and lube. Ciao.